Taking them out every hour.
Every 30 minutes, I put a timer.
That's fine. Do it. Do it. Matthew Praise.
Okay, good evening. My name is Tim Frazier. I am the Vice Chair of the School Board. Barbara is attending the meeting tonight, but she's a little under the weather, and so she asked me if I would conduct the meeting tonight. So I will be in charge this evening for our regular meeting of the Board of Education. At this time, I would like to roll call.
Tim Frazier?
Here.
Dave Conlon?
Here.
Amy Rivera? Here. Pat Brazan? And Barbara Dayton?
Here.
Oh, hey, Barbara.
I'd just like to mention we started this meeting at about 7:06. If we all could stand, we'll have the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I did want to mention that the board just came out of executive session. It started at 6 o'clock this evening, where we were discussing contractual issues. We have a new spring speaking.
We do. Leah Boyle, are you here?
Leah was not able to make it, but she did email the board introducing herself and discussing our plans for our big field trips this upcoming school year.
You want to introduce everybody, at least for the public? And
Sure. I'm Megan Payne. Hi. I'm the secretary. Leah Boyle is a parent of 3, and she is our new president. Jane Portman is also a parent of 3 and the new vice president. And Anya Janota has a first grader, and she continues to be the treasurer this year.
thank you, Megan.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and you guys have a big event coming up next week, right?
The turkey trot, yeah, we're still taking donations. So we're getting a lot of cash, and that's going to be to spend on the upcoming field trips for the school year. The major one is that we're hoping to take grades 5 through 8 to a Mets game.
Wow.
So we would pay for all the kids and teachers' tickets. We would just need the kids to fundraise for their jitney passes. So it would be $33 a head. They'd have to fundraise. And then K through 4, we would keep on Long Island, either to the aquarium or to Bethpage, something we have to discuss with the classroom teachers.
Okay, sounds great. And I enjoyed your advertising in the paper the last 2 weeks. That was great.
No
Hopefully
problem.
you get a good turnout.
Thanks.
On that subject, does anybody have any concerns on rescue? Because they do have to secure the text. Yeah, and anybody, who doesn't raise their money, they will find a way to
Okay, I think we have a presentation on our capital project.
Please walk away there.
Marquise does everything.
Perfect, thank you. Who's going to start, Jim?
Good evening, everybody. Just want to give you an update as far as where we stand currently with the completion of the work for the capital project. Contractors have been busy completing the punch list work, which was issued prior to school opening, and we continue to update the punch list as stations will become completed, and contractors have indicated us that the stations are now ready to be looked at. So at this point, we have everything in the hands of each of the contractors that need to be taking care of the work that needs to be completed or directed. And for the site contractor, the Atlantic, right now they are working on getting some Finalizing on their work, 75% of their punch list is complete. They anticipate being done by the third week of December with all their work. For Stalco, they've been working on stuff around the building inside and the general construction work. They should be done with their work by the fourth week of December. There are some items that they're still waiting on. Material availability is an issue with the gutters and a couple of doors in the gymnasium. They have to replace two pairs of door frames at the gym because they were the incorrect size. And the one garage door at the corner of the building, they're still waiting on some material. But they seem to have everything in line as far as deliveries, that they should be able to complete all their work, as I said, by the fourth week of December.
With the exception of those items.
Or with the exception of these items. And then they'll complete the work as it comes in, they'll install what's still missing. Pyramid contracting and mechanical contractors. They should be complete with their work by the third week of December. They still have some training to be done on some of their equipment for the building staff, so they know what systems that are new to the building and trained on how those things should be operating. And they are waiting on one more piece of mechanical equipment. It's a vent that gets installed on the roof. So that may be something that they're waiting to install, but for the most part, everything else will be done by the third week of December. And for the plumbing contracts at Hirsch, they're about 95% complete with all their work. A few more things left on their list. They should be done by the third week in December. They will be possibly waiting on this wrap material that goes underneath the sinks by the ADA sinks, so that they're protected from a person in a wheelchair doesn't burn their legs in the drain. So that's something they've ordered and they're waiting for it to be delivered, so they should be complete with their work by the third week in December. And the ADR, he's the electrician for the project. He has a bunch of work that he's still working on. He's about 25 to 30% complete with his work. What was his anticipated completion of that?
Fourth week of December.
Fourth week of December. So we should be wrapping up his stuff until the end of December. Two items that I think is, one of the items that he has a long lead or something he's waiting on, just getting through the work that he's got to complete to finish the work and complete his punch list. That covers all the contractors and the status of where they are with the punch list. We've been keeping an eye on things as the work has been completed. Park East has been here every day, keeping tabs on their work at night and making sure they're getting through their punch list work and making sure things are kept clean, so when the morning comes and school's ready, that there's nothing laying around or debris. I think those are all the items for work that's outstanding.
Just one other item is American Rec is coming Monday, Tuesday next week to modify the playground.
Derek, we thought that was Friday and Saturday. Was there a change?
There was a change.
I wasn't notified of that.
We just heard about it as we walked into this meeting. Any questions? Other questions?
They're gonna cover that spot once they're removed?
Yeah, so our understanding is Monday, they're going to remove the two pieces of equipment. Tuesday, they're going to infill the play surfacing. And they'll put up that piece of safety cable on Monday as well, on that higher elevation piece of equipment.
They're going to be closed down 2 days?
Yes.
That's why I like the Friday, Saturday a lot better.
Would you like to push it to next Friday, Saturday?
There's no school that's probably, right?
Well, we have no school on Wednesday, before Thanksgiving, that makes sense.
Thursday, Friday.
Okay, so I'll reach out to them tomorrow I'll even try to reach out to him tonight, but I'll touch base with you tomorrow and see if we could modify it to when school is out.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Next, we have a time for the audience to address the board regarding board business items only, personnel, finance, and policy. I'd just like to remind whoever would like to come up and speak before the board that they're limited to 3 minutes in order to make sure that we get through our agenda. So at this time, it's your opportunity if you'd like to come and address the board about personnel, finance, or policy. Okay, let's go on to personnel.
So you have, as you know, the state has been very liberal with uncertified people taking positions, especially in the TA ranks, until they get certified. So Jessica Meganson is one of those people that will be a teacher assistant at one time a day until she completes her certification. Gloria had already taken her test on Monday, so we're trying to get teacher assistants, and if anybody's interested, they can apply and get appointed temporarily until they complete their test and get certified. And we'll bring them before the board for permanent appointment. We have on the agenda E&L Extra Help. This will be funded by the Title III grant. And that's all your E&L teachers have offered to do extra help in the morning before school starts.
What time does that start at?
It starts at 7:20, so it's a full hour. And the total funding is not to exceed $19,500. It's 2 hours per instructor per week. So they're gonna, take turns. They're not gonna all be doing the same time. But it will be extra help for E&L students, which is really very, very important.
Is that going to be drop-offs going to be in the back or the circle?
In the front. Yeah.
And
It's been working out very well. We have band in the morning, we have chorus in the morning,
Yeah, that's at 7:30.
yeah, and we have transportation.
So there'll be somebody here 10 minutes earlier.
Yeah.
To read to the kids. Who's supposed to leave those for?
In the front. Leave of absence. So the way this works is the person takes a leave from their current position, so you have that so that they're available for the next position. So you're going to see that tonight. So we're happy to put before the board at Grande for teaching a teaching position. We had 4 applicants for the AIS. 3 of them were from Up Island and did not even return phone calls for the interview. Pat is an individual who has been working with our special ed children on the middle school level and is very confident in math as well as Spanish. So she is going to take that position that was vacated by Megan Lyden, which is the science position. And Megan Lyden, by the way, just matriculated, so she's in the process of working with BOCES to get that transitional certification. So everything's moving along in both of those areas, so that's why we're bringing Pat forward to a probationary appointment effective tomorrow. And she is got a master's degree, so that's step 1 at $59,026. She apologizes for not being here tonight, but she had another obligation and wanted me to relay how grateful she is for the opportunity to teach. Gloria is currently subbing as a teacher assistant, but she was originally a library aide, so she's going to take a leave from her library aide position, and she's going to fill the office assistant Spanish-speaking position. Julie has been in touch with civil service, and she can be appointed provisionally. Okay, for that appointment, so you have that next.
And she would be here, but she's working, making copies for us right now.
Julie?
Yeah.
She also has to resign from several other positions that she was listed on with civil service.
Correct, because once you're employed full-time with civil service, you can't hold several other civil service positions at the same time. So since she'll be going on full-time with us probationary, she has to resign from her monitor position and her call-in clerical, which is really taking the place of her full-time clerical. And for civil service law, that came to be from the board today.
You have activity stipends. One of the stipends that was missed originally was your coordinator of art, Laura Marino. It was just an oversight. Then, before you tonight is the special ed coordinators for the IDEA grant. That's Stephanie Rambo and Caitlin Kim-Wilsey. We met with Dr. Turnow regarding those two positions. They are step one until they are able to substantiate the hours. She's suggesting that those will be level 3s by the end of the school year. Very similar to the coordinator of science. You have your stipends for winter sports. They're starting up. If you want to see the first game in the gym on Thursday, please join us. It's going to be very exciting. So you have appointment of Victoria Hoffman for boys basketball, Ray Tuziak for boys basketball, girls volleyball, Kim Royal, and Joe Calavito. And again, the tryouts were held. I don't know what the final numbers were, but you had many children trying out for sports.
2 teams?
2 teams for girls and 2 teams for boys. Basketball for boys and volleyball for girls. We have before you tonight a resolution to raise the certified substitute TA pay to $175 a day, which will be consistent with East Hampton, and non-certified substitute TA to be $135, which will be higher than East Hampton. And let's hope this attracts more substitutes. So even though these subs are listed as 110 here, the resolution before that will change it. Special committee revisions. So these are Board of Ed committees. We're waiting on PTA to give us some recommendations for parents, so we will bring that to you. You have the audit committee, Barbara Dayton, Tim Frazier, Dave Conlon, Amy Rivera, Pat Brayden. Technology committee has a big lift this year. The technology plan is due in June 2022. That's Kristen Ferry, John Gibbons, Tracy Frazier, Ryan Scallis, Steve Mazurs from LICN, Dave Conlon, John Charlton, and Tanny Skip. Policy will continue with Barbara, Dayton, myself, Tim Frazier, Julie Bistrian, and Christy Lamondo. Health and safety and facilities, Mike Henry, Christine Ferry, Pat Brayvan, Dave Conlon, Owen McCormick, Ashley Delapola, and Laura Birdie, the school nurse. I will sit in as needed related to the COVID plan. Site-based committee is chaired by Christine Ferry, and Amy Rivera is on there, Josh Odom, Ryan Scala, Megan Payne, and Patty Hicks. Capital project committee, which hopefully will be coming to a close. It looks like, the end of December, Mike? Mm-hmm. That's the entire board, plus Ms. Ferry, Mike, and myself. District Emergency Response Committee, the URT team, again led by Christine Ferry, Amy Rivera, Bruce Bates, Kenneth Alberto, Devin Toya, Tim Taylor, Jeff Miller, and Laura Burke. And then last is our guidance plan advisory, which, as you know, a couple of years ago, this was instituted by the state. Tim Frazier's on there, Kristen Trian, Joe Calavito, Jackie Rambo, Stacey McCauley, Jim Salon, and Pete Hutchinson. Chair people for special education. We had to add Christine Chernow. These were done at the reorganization meeting. 504 coordinator, and consistent with our conversation that although the district has approved BOCES helping us with our data, there is still required edits that require a great deal of time on the part of Mrs. Traynor. So we are amending her contract to include Chief Information Officer. She will do all that edit reporting and working very closely with BOCES to be sure that our data is in full compliance and every child is recognized for our state aid. In order to do that, I'm recommending that you go from 3 to 4 days per week, $700 per day. There are only 26 weeks left. If she doesn't need 4 days a week, she will not work 4 days a week. She doesn't work over any of the vacations or the breaks, and you don't pay her for any of that time off. She's out sick, she does not get compensated.
Is there a resolution on it, then?
Excuse me?
Is that a resolution on it?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
You don't have Q?
Okay, right. You can move it. Okay.
We have a leave of absence for the purpose of childcare being extended. Therefore, Deb Murray is extended in that leave. It actually works out very well with the next leave. So Deb takes an extended leave from her TA position, and she picks up the next leave for childcare as well. So the timing just works out really well. She goes from one leave to the next leave. And then you have the resignation of Kim Felkin, Georgie, and that is because, if you remember, last year she took a leave, and she did get a job, and I think she wrote all the board members a beautiful letter and sent you, she's got us all beat, she's got a Christmas card done already. So she sent us a card, she was very grateful for the opportunities here, and she sounds like she's very happy with you. So there's your personnel, all the way to letter B.
A through B. Are there any questions about any items A through B from board members?
So let's listen. Did you read K&L?
I don't think you did.
Did I miss out?
Yeah.
K&L.
Oh, I did miss out.
Okay.
Very important, thank you. I'm also recommending to the Board of Ed that we amend the custodial substitute rate to $25 an hour. They're currently at 19. Again, to be competitive with our colleagues. In fact, this morning I got off the phone with the East End cluster. Several districts have gone to contracting out because they cannot get custodial help, and unfortunately, that hasn't worked out too well for them. It's contracted services, you never know what to do. Again, this increase in rate will help us get a couple more custodians. Like he was calling.
He's calling around some people.
Any other questions?
Can you pull Jay to the side to look at one?
Tell who?
Jay, pull to the side to a separate resolution on that?
Sure. From Jay?
Yes.
Okay, I'd be glad to do that. So I'm looking for a motion for approval for A through I. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
A second? All in favor?
Aye.
Then I have a motion for K through B. Need a motion for approval.
Motion?
Do I have a second? All approved?
Aye.
Thank you, Barbara. So we pulled out J, and again, this is for amended teacher TA substitute pay rate. Be it resolved that the Board of Education hereby amends the rate of pay for certified substitute teachers, TA to be $175 a day, and TAs to be $135 a day effective November 17th, 2020. Can I have a motion? Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
You abstain?
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, those A through B have been approved to go forward.
Thank you.
Finance.
On finance, informational ones, we've got the warrants for October, along with the major expenditures summary that goes along with it.
You have the claims audit report from our claims auditor. Item C is the 2022 budget calendar. Item D is the contract with Eastern Suffolk BOCES for the new Conoco and Minolta copiers to replace the 3 that were under lease. So that's a lengthy resolution.
Would have to be ready.
It's a multi-year. I think it doesn't
I
have,
think you can set it
Yeah.
to one.
but it's a multi-year contract for the lease of these Conoco and Minolta copiers. Item E is a donation of 60 Chromebooks. Item F is the contract for regional transportation with Eastern Suffolk BOCES. This is one of those contracts that we have to have it on the books, but if we don't use it, we don't pay for it. Same thing with item G, contract for regional transportation for field trips. Item H is a contract for money for PID. Item I is asset disposition for a file cabinet that's beyond repair. And that is it for,
19 have a walk-on for the change order.
it was there.
Does that go there?
Yeah, we also have the walk-on for a change order to repair and bring up the transfer switch on a switchgear down in the basement to accommodate the new generator that's in the back in order to bring it up to the UL, Underwriters Labs specifications in the amount of $3,500.
You want to go for A through I, and then go on J separately?
Yes, I'd like to, I'll read that too.
Okay.
I would like to comment, I just want to thank, again, all up for their donation of Chromebooks to the school. They've been doing this for many years, at least the last 3 years.
I called out to Mike Donovan and Minerva, and I told them our situation with high school tuition. And, although we could budget it would help us a great deal. And they, of course, said, what do you need? And they gave us some Chromebooks, which is really our increase in enrollment.
No, they've always done an amazing job as supporting Spring School, so I'd just like to make a special statement thanking them for their support. Any other questions about items A through A in finance? Do I have a motion to accept? Motion. Yes. All in favor?
Aye.
I'll read the walk warrant. Whereas the Springs Union School District awarded a contract to JDR Electronic Incorporated for electrical construction on the Phase 2 bond project at the Springs School, and whereas the school district's architect and construction manager recommended a change order in the amount of $3,500, thereby increasing the existing contract for general construction consisting of the shall make the necessary modifications to the original building switchgear as outlined in the report generated by Underwriters Labs UL LLC date 10/21/21. The scope includes, but not limited to, the removal of all ground to neutral bonding jumper connections found in all sections of this equipment and replacement of the missing fasteners on the neutral bus, which stabilize suitable hardware and torque and mark accordingly, if you guys all understand. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Education approve the change order number 6 to the site construction contract EC1 with JDR Electric Incorporated, thereby increasing the contract sum to $1,991,588.18.
Yes, this is something we discussed. And it's all very clear to us, it's explained well, and I think we're all in agreement.
May I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, special education report.
Special ed, you have 1 through 14 for your regular CSEs, and then you have 1 through 4 for pre-K. Or 1 through K, case.
Any questions on the special report? So, motion to approve. Second? All in favor? Okay, let's go to I'm sorry, we're going to go to the principal's report. Christine Claire.
You want to take the mic and maybe have, join you? No, come. Karaoke.
Yeah.
This way you can be heard.
Okay.
Good evening, everyone. This microphone's just broke, right?
Yeah,
Can you all hear me?
yeah, it's not like that they do.
Yeah, sure. So good evening, everyone. I'm Carrie, I'm the principal. Thank you, the board. Yeah, thanks. So we're already into quarter 2 of the school year, which is hard to believe. Report cards are out, parent-teacher conferences are this week. We look forward to meeting with our parents this week. But one of the things I think we weren't prepared for coming into the school year was the amount of tricky behaviors on the part of our students coming in after almost 2 full years of COVID. Interrupted instruction, interrupted behavioral supports, interrupted everything, lack of socialization. So I think I can speak to everybody in this room who's felt it across the board at different grade levels and age groups. So Mr. Odom and I have been very, very busy trying to be both proactive and reactive to all these situations with the help of our teachers and our support staff. And I think we've probably hopefully come up with an idea that is both preventative and instructional in way of behavioral supports. This particular program, which I will let Josh get into the details, it's aligned with our current SEL program, second step. It's aligned with our MTSS tiered support model for behavioral supports. It's also aligned with restorative practices, and it's aligned with equitable and culturally responsive practices. All those things that we value here as a school district. We also have it aligned with our APL strategies, which we presented at our last superintendent conference today, because this really needs to be sort of a school-wide initiative in order for it to benefit our kids. So I'm going to turn it over to Josh so he can explain the nitty-gritty.
So the microphone's
We need it on LTV.
Okay, so I think the big thing here is that first of all, I'd like to thank our teachers for their hard work with everything in the classroom this year, because it has been a trying start to the year. But what we were looking at is a way that we can be a little more proactive with our the way we're getting a handle of behaviors, and we needed an extra level of intervention before we result in suspension. Especially when we consider our new code of conduct and some of the changes we made within that code of conduct. We thought it was important to have another layer of support for our students, another teaching opportunities for that students. What we developed is an after-school program. Essentially, it's a 10th teaching period. It would start at 3:20 in the day after the contractual obligation and run for an hour. And right now, we look at it as running twice a week. Will we need that every week? Probably not, but there will be situations where maybe we do. As of this week, maybe we can use it once, and next week, who knows? So, essentially, this is a time that allows students to reflect on their behavior, problem solve ways with that behavior, either through role play or hosting APL clinics, and then create plans to kind of restore the harm that's been done in whatever capacity that is. And I think that's really important right now, because what we're looking at is, due to staffing and scheduling and just the nature of the day, it's hard to find the time to get to implementing these practices that are really important for our students. And so this creates space to do that. So I think it'll work pretty well. I'm excited about it, and I think the staff members we talked to are as well.
So we're hoping that the board will support this initiative because we do think it will benefit the kids, and it's so incredibly important. Our kids came into the school year really hurting, and they really need the support. Instead of after-school detention, we're calling it after-school attention, because they need the attention, they need the instruction on behavior, and they also need the time, they need eyes and ears on them
I just read a study where they said some kids are online, social media 9 hours a day, and they get less than 9 hours a week of adult to student conversation. That's a huge shift in our society and for our kids and for their development, so we think this is just a little, maybe a little something that will help and hopefully go a long way. And we have some wonderful staff members who are more than willing to step in and provide that support with the, with support from the.
So these are consequences then?
They're.
So tell me again, what's the step in getting that consequence? Is that determined by the teacher in the classroom? Is it determined by several different events? Is it determined by a phone call home?
Well, obviously, I mean, the phone call home still happen, all those sort of interventions are still there in place. Even before a student went to this, obviously, there'd be a phone call home. The way I see it rolling out is as, teachers send a student my way for disciplinary action. In collaboration with that teacher, I would make a determination of whether they go to the after-school behavioral program. If it's a repetitive action, then obviously we might need to go a different way. But I just see it as another level of, it's kind of pairing consequence. I mean, consequence is important, right? You have to have it. So it's pairing consequence with an ability to kind of learn from the infraction, whenever that may be. So at the end of the day, I would be the one that made the decision on the schools and make the decision on who went into the program. But I would like input from staff on that as well.
So if the teacher sends a student who's behaving poorly to the principal's office, and let's say you decide you want to put them into this 320 program after school, are they, during the course of the day, are they being sent back to the classroom?
Yeah, the point is to always keep the kids in program. We don't want them to miss the instruction if they're able to, so we try to de-escalate the situation. But I think what Josh was speaking to, our code of conduct, it's very clear is that there's steps. So if somebody's disrupting the class, the first order of business is that the teacher will give them a warning, okay? Second order of business is that the teacher may either take them to the side and talk to them and try to find out what's going on. The third step might be that they might write them up and use one of our disciplinary forms. The fourth step might be a call home, sending them to us, not necessarily for the whole day, but to contact the parents to figure out what's going on. A lot of times there's a lot more emotional baggage attached to that behavior. That's what we've seen anyway. And then, of course, it would be, this is really the last step before, like Josh said, either in-school suspension or out-of-school suspension. And then, of course, if need be, once we find out what's driving that behavior, we might bring in additional support, like counseling, an outside agency or something like that, whatever it need be.
And the SDA had a lot of input into these ideas?
Well, I think we have discussed it with teachers one-on-one as we've gotten so many discipline issues this year. So we have had occasion not, to sit down in a big forum, but definitely individually with teachers who have struggled with behaviors.
Yeah, I would think as much as the board, would support you, I think having the staff support the idea. I know it's probably more important than what we as the board think.
There's a lot of interest, I had a lot of outreach when at the start of the year I talked about starting a kind of restorative justice team within the school. And the hard part is, especially in our middle school schedule and our middle school day, finding the time to really implement one of those programs. It involves a lot of moving parts. It involves pulling people out of classes. It involves doing coverage for people in classes, and as we do substitutes.
And training.
And training, that can be difficult to do. So I think this kind of allows us an opportunity to start implementing some of those structures before we can get into a different model of things that we go forward.
So who will be monitoring this thing?
I will. I'm here, and then we have several staff members who are interested in the position as well, should be approved.
Okay. So they would sign up and rotate, would be two at all times, or just one, or
just one at a time. Yeah. I mean, obviously, if it was
large number,
a crazy day, then and then we're looking at twice a week. Really, I don't think there's any need for a 5-day-a-week program right now. Hopefully not ever. But I think twice a week is suffice on a busy week.
We'll look at it very similar to your extra support in the morning for reading, your extra support now tonight will include the E&L services. These are children who need extra support socially and emotionally. And there's just not enough time in a school day to really talk them through what could you have done differently. Let's talk about some of the strategies that you could use the next time somebody really gets on your nerves. And we have 2 teachers tonight, if you are willing to try this, that we put it out as anticipated, hoping that you would approve this. Michael Biggs and Rachel Cook have stepped forward. The cost is minimal. It's the same as AIS or E&L support, $75 an hour. And it will not exceed more than $4,500 from now to the end of the school year. And I think it's really worth us looking at with everything that's going on, giving them this extra time to talk out and make plans.
Go ahead. It builds in practice time. We used to call them clinics, as Josh said, with the APL strategies friend with his old as me, and then has been here long enough to remember that. But I think it allows for things, we're thinking of embedding things like obviously a reflection sheet, but within that role playing, actually role playing, as Ms. Winter said. Here you are in this situation, give a social story. Okay, what would you do next time? Well, how would you do it differently? It really is teaching those skills. When a child doesn't know how to read, we teach them how to read. When a child doesn't know how to multiply, we teach them how to multiply. When a child doesn't know how to behave, we punish them. We have to teach them how to behave. So, and more so this year than any other year. And we're starting with our adolescent group because that's where we've seen the surge. And then if it's successful and the kids find it helpful and the parents find it helpful and the teachers find it helpful, and maybe we can expand it to other grades and age groups.
So, you brought a couple of points I have.
Sure.
You brought a lot of kids don't spend like 9 hours a week with their parents, and for the last 2 years, the computer's been generating their life, social and meeting with other students. But we've already programs in place for all grades. I'm sure there's more than just the disciplinary students are having issues with this. There's, regular students too aren't acting out. And I'm listening, we bring back character to our classroom again.
We are. In fact, our character coordinator is Mr. Weiner, one of our teachers. And she is in the process of developing and then we'll be implementing starting right after Thanksgiving break, a full-on character ed program again. And then for one of the workshop, I believe, topics, we're going to be talking about spirit meet, which is where we did a lot of the character ed for the little guys. But we also have our second step program, which is embedded in our curriculum. So the kids are getting that K through 8. And this is something that reinforces a lot of those coping strategies. So to answer your question, yes. Yes. Yeah, it's kind of all connected, but this is just a little more intensive.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, there's a lot of staff here tonight, so, to me at least, it would be helpful to get some impressions from what the staff thinks about this. Because again, as I said earlier, I think that's gonna, if there's the buy-in there, I think it's really important. So, I think it seems like a good idea, but if there's some feedback from the staff would be helpful.
Thumbs up to anybody who wants behavior to improve in their family. No, I'm joking, but I welcome anybody to.
I think it's a fair statement to say that we all are happy that there's a proactive approach going on, because I think the beginning of the year started off with a little bit of whack-a-mole. And, that it's wonderful to get the support of having the opportunity to have the time and the space to really teach these behaviors. As, somebody who deals with special education and deals with, a major behavioral incidents, it's very similar to what we do on one of our JETS calls when we do what's called an LSI, which is a life skills interview. And so it's breaking down exactly, the examples that have been given tonight. What could you do differently in that same situation? So I think it's wonderful. And Very excited, and I'm glad that we have, wonderful junior high teachers who are jumping on board and supporting this, so.
Barbara, do you have a question?
No, I don't. I think it sounds like a really good and interesting program, and we'll incorporate some of that restorative justice that Josh had been telling us about over the summer.
Should I read this?
Yes,
Are we ready to? Okay.
it's a walk-on personnel item.
Be it resolved that the Board of Education hereby approves Michael Biggs and Rachel Cook to provide behavioral support at a rate of $75 per hour, not to exceed $4,500 for the 21-22 school year, to be funded from the ESSA grant.
I've got one question about the 4,500. If you're looking at 1 or 2 times a week, how did you come up with 4,500?
I multiplied $150 a week times 30 weeks.
But that's for one staff member?
Yeah, there will be one staff member at a time in your room.
And it'll be twice a week, so it's 150 with 30
So
weeks
my
left.
question is this, I tell our staff, if we have disciplinary children, is it wise to have one staff member, one student in one classroom by themselves, unsupervised?
I'm in the building as well.
Are you in the
So,
classroom
yeah,
with them?
so I will be in and out of the classroom, yes. I have duties that happen after school as well, but that's certainly one of them. I have to do is bumping in and out of that room. It would be the sort of thing too where, it's always encouraging you have a staff member and a student in a room, the door is open, there's intervention there as well.
All right, so,
Okay, I'll put this, I'll
I'll go to 25, that's 25,
I don't
So
think
we
we'll
did
reach that
one-
number at all.
Yeah, up to.
you don't think we're gonna exceed it?
No.
You don't think so? We have to go 2 hours, say we had to do 4 hours a week, if there was one.
Well, I think as it goes along,
If we increase it later on?
we can ask them to come back and report.
Okay, well, we're gonna, if we have to increase it, I'd rather not than anything, but if we have to increase it, I don't want to hit the support the student needs.
And
Well,
having
I-
multiple students at the same time.
Right, yeah.
I think in a month or 2 time, it would be great to have Josh come back and Christine and talk to us about how they feel the effectiveness of
I just want to show there's enough funds in it,
So, do I have a motion?
A motion.
Second? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you very much, thank you.
Okay, old business. I'm sorry, I'm jumping ahead. Deb, how about
Superintendent's enrollment report first. And I think it was you that asked for the enrollment report to look a little different, comparing it, going back, we went back to 2018-19. And if you look at it really closely, of course, 2021 was the lowest year for us at 610. 2018-19, this is only K through 8, not counting pre-K. We went from 681 students in 2018-19 to 676 students. Where we see the most growth is in that high school number, and we are meeting with on Friday, Mike and I, to discuss what options, we have for these spikes in high school tuition, maybe setting up some sort of legislation to help us with this. But we went from 305 students in 2018-19 to 357 students at the high school. Those are actual numbers.
Yeah, and I was looking at all the other secondary schools, all the students, playground, all of them, the playground has the biggest increase, but most of them are the same, it's like the school itself. And you said they all moved into Springs?
No, they didn't just move into Springs. I understand East Hampton has had a surge based on a recent article in the paper that their enrollment is up at the elementary, middle, and the high school. We did not get hit as hard as some districts. Riverhead is up 1,000 students for this school year.
What kind of food come from?
I don't know where they time that I did the research here, and there were 13 students from surrounding districts, including Sag Harbor, one from Massachusetts, well, only one from New York City, and then 13 students from Ecuador. It was up like almost divided right in half. A lot from Sag Harbor. That was the first time we really saw that.
Well, the prices at home.
Yeah. So, the other announcement I have, which is not on the agenda because it just actually happened yesterday, we are gonna be the first elementary school on the East End to have a vaccination day for children, 5 to 11. It's in conjunction with Stony Brook, and Ola is gonna help us with Spanish interpretation. It's gonna run Saturday from 10 to 2 right here at our gym. They will have the children sit in the gym for their 15 minutes, but then we'll use classrooms and small instructional spaces to do the actual vaccinations. 2 of our 3 nurses are coming in that day, so that it's familiar faces. So Stony Brook also provides a doctor and a couple of nurses. So we're anticipating, we're hoping to do at least 250. I haven't opened it up to other school districts yet, because I wanted to make spring the priority, but if I find by Thursday we don't have the numbers, I will send the link out to the surrounding school districts.
And that's this weekend.
That's this Saturday, Christine and I will be present also. So, yeah, as many familiar faces as you can see, it's really helpful.
Okay, the next item is old business, minutes from October the 4th. Special meeting and work session October the 4th, and then October the 18th, regular meeting. There are no motions. Second. All in favor? New business is next. Do you want to talk about this?
Yes, I need to get your blessing and
The dedication plaque for the new addition.
yes.
Additional alterations as principal.
So very similar to your other plaques, if you remember them, the bronze plaques. So we have a couple of decisions to make, wording of course. And then the mounts are a little different than previous mounts. They have these, like screws that go into the walls. And then the other ones were kind of like glued onto the walls. So that's the recommendation that they make for installation. I went around to a couple of the other plaques. This is very similar. I just didn't know if you wanted to do anything different. It's polished with finished lettering.
So you don't like have the plan that you erected?
The word erected is funny, Pat.
We could just make, I'm just thinking, put it, you know, 2021.
We can do that. It was just that this was such a long process for you. I didn't know what you wanted to include when you started planning or not. Or you can just say 2021.
I don't think there need to be planning.
No, that's, you know, it was planned since 2001, okay? Before that.
So you just want to put 2021? Or
Yeah.
you want to put completed 2021?
Completed. Barbara, do you have any comment on that?
I think maybe completed 2021.
We're gonna, cross that out, plan here. We didn't like erected here.
Then you have business official, building principal, we get the assistant principal on this.
We can.
Yeah.
Yeah, assistant principal.
I mean, that's what we can't be. I don't remember.
He definitely earned it, let me tell you. I don't know anybody who started a new job under the construction that he did. Everything else is okay?
Oh,
Didn't I take that off?
so take away the plan that you erected and, oh, no, just,
Yeah, I'm gonna cross out plan and erected. I'm gonna add,
you're gonna leave the additional alterations? No, it's an additional rate on top of it. You don't cover it?
Yeah, it starts with additions and alterations. So you did an addition, but you also made alterations.
And the word building next to Christine Ferry's name needs to be related to high-end.
Oh, right.
That should be the school person.
Or should we just call it capital project since we've been calling it that the whole time?
Yeah, I like that.
Okay. I like that too.
David.
All right, I'll make the changes and I'll send, I will make the changes, they will,
And then,
PDS.
yeah, should it be superintendent of schools or school?
You know, Pat, that's a very good
Yeah,
question.
one school, right?
It's one school.
Yeah.
Should be superintendent,
Yeah.
no school.
Good.
And likewise with Christine, I don't think that needs to say building principal. I think just principal is, appropriate.
We're building.
And Josh.
Yeah, I have that. And then, remove of schools. I'll have them revise it and I'll send it out to all of you, okay? Great.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
It's now time for our public commentary number 2. Again, remind members who would like to come and make comments to the board that you have a 3 minutes in order to do it. Anybody would like to make a comment, please come forward to the podium, state your name.
I just had a quick question. The committee revisions, I thought we were supposed to get some proposed dates for those committees to meet, especially like the facilities, the health facilities. We have teachers that serve on those committees. I know they're board committees, but there's a lot of issues that go on that we would like to be getting those meetings going. I believe they're required to meet quarterly, that committee. So I don't know if those dates are proposed.
You know, I'm waiting for some dates on policy from our attorney, Mike. You have some dates for
I
health and
don't have,
safety?
I'm looking at the, right after we get back from Thanksgiving, probably that Wednesday, the first meeting.
If you could get that out before Wednesday of next week.
Yep.
Okay, and then you'll be starting technology, Christine.
Same, after Thanksgiving.
I want to thank all the teachers for being
Oh,
here.
definitely, thank all of that for being there.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have 0 callers on the line. Oh, nope. I take that back. We have 1 caller waiting.
Okay.
You go ahead.
Good evening. I am Ashley Delafola, and I just wanted to propose an idea in terms of social emotional support for our younger students, possibly to have a visitor come in, since we're bringing people back into the school starting soon, for visitors, to bring them in to do some team building or some social emotional lessons with the kids. I think those would be really good for them to hear a different voice and also to get that extra practice.
Are there any suggestions?
I'm literally thinking food for thought right now. We did have one person come in before COVID a couple of years ago, that she was great. I can check to see if I remember her name, but just food for thought about bringing someone in to do some of that work with our little guys as well. Thank you.
Well, you got a phone, one special speakers, and the rest of them,
Mike Merrill.
Mike Bell,
Yeah.
and another.
We're ready for the phone comments.
Okay, give me 1 second, please. We're going to unmute last 4 digits of 8764. Caller, you are live.
Good evening.
Caller, you are now live.
Now I'm alive. Okay, we'll try again.
Okay.
This is David Buda. Good evening. Hope you can hear me.
Yes, David, go
Is
ahead.
that a yes? Affirmative?
It's a yes,
We have
affirmative.
liftoff. Okay, good. I of course continue to be interested in following the changes in enrollment because of the significant impact, as you all know, on the budget for this year and next year with regard to the high school enrollment. So I appreciate that the superintendent has continued to closely report on the enrollment changes. Just one thing I want to comment on, because it makes it a little hard to digest the numbers and to compare them year over year. In the latest report, the numbers have changed for prior year 2019, 2020, by 14 students. I don't know what caused that to happen, but if you take a look at the prior reports and this evening's report, the numbers were significantly changed for prior year, which of course there's no logical explanation for a change in the prior year enrollment. But be that as it may, the issue is understanding the source of the significant increase in this year's high school enrollment. The superintendent, as I understood it, sometimes it's hard to hear what's going on at the meeting, but she said that 13 of the new high school students that were not really anticipated moved into Springs from surrounding communities, 1 from New York City and 13 from Ecuador. I have to wonder, since that's a significant number this year, whether someone has further analyzed whether these are, I guess you would call them, intact families that have relocated to into the Springs by purchasing a home, or are they individual students who have come to move in with family members, or are they unaccompanied minors, or whatever they are. I don't expect anyone to be able to answer those questions tonight, but I think in terms of your long-term budget planning and in terms of what to expect for next year and continuing for this year, that question should be studied more carefully, and an explanation should be provided at an appropriate time.
Okay, David, thank you very much. We'll certainly take that into consideration as we are continuing looking at our enrollment. And again, like you said, it's very important to keep track of it and to understand. Sometimes it's kind of tough to understand all the circumstances, but we certainly will make every effort to do that.
Deb, you said you had Officer Giles.
You're welcome.
Looking into, resident checks for residency.
Yeah,
It's not like we're not doing it.
she's done 93 students, 23 homes, and we have about 4 students that we disenrolled. And we have a special letter that goes out. We give parents an opportunity to come in and prove residency. Also making sure the kids re-enroll in their new schools. That trail is very important. You just can't drop a student. You have to drop a student with a code. Did the child move? Did the child transfer to a private school? You really need to ask the question. You can't just drop.
Maybe we can get a report on that next executive.
Yes.
Another caller?
We have 0 additional callers. Thank you.
Okay, Matt, thank you so much. At this time, I'm going to ask for a
Motion.
second. All in favor? Thank you all for being here this evening. Thank you, Matt.
Thanks, Matt. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Good night, Barbara.
Good night, Tim. You did a great job.
Good night.